Hello world, welcome to the 239th Climate Change Emergency Protest here in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. It is June 21st, 2023, and it's starting to rain for the first time in forever. It seems like we're going to get an inch of rain over the next 3 days, thank goodness. Says this is number 239. Next week will be number 240. That'll be on June 30th, 2023. So right now the carbon dioxide level is 423 plus parts per million. As I said many times, only 280 parts per million is safe, not 350. Humanity has existed, and life on Earth the last 800,000 years has been below 300 parts per million. So we're at 423, 424 parts per million. So we're way out of line. The last time in the Pliocene, which was 5 million years ago to 2.5 million years ago, the Pliocene era, the oceans were 25 meters higher or 82 feet higher, whichever you choose to use as a gauge. So, and then also temperatures were 2 to 3 degrees Celsius higher than they are now. The United Nations says we only have 0.2 of a degree to go or so, and then the calamity starts hitting. Well, it's hitting now. But if you add in another 2 to 3 degrees Celsius, it's not survivable as far as conditions go. So with 424, so what we baked in is what's going to happen, what happened in the Pliocene era. Oceans will be at least 80 feet higher. Do your math as to where your location is. And temperature is going to be 2 to 3 degrees warmer. And right now, for example, in Texas, it's 117 degrees in some places. Some places in Texas, the real feel is 122 degrees Fahrenheit. I'll talk about that in a second. So we're in for a world of hurt, and we keep messing around, and it's not a good thing, and we're going down, you know, and I hate talking this way because it always sounds so negative and everything, but it's reality as to what's happening. People need to know what's happening and get used to it, and then start pressuring their politicians to change. And first off, they have to educate themselves as to what's happening. So I'm going to show you this chart a little later, but this is called the TikTok chart. I came up with it months ago. I showed people about it before. It's the International Climate Change Table of Catastrophe. It's the McHenry scale. It seemed kind of ludicrous when I did it, but now it's really holding true. For every degree increase, 1/10 of a degree increase, you have a doubling of catastrophic events, okay, or catastrophe in general. So right now, we were at 1.2. I think we're about 1.35 now that El Nino's kicking in. And back then, or now rather, there are 21.5 million refugees a year in the world from climate change. The United Nations is under-predicting this, but they're saying by the year 2050, which is always wrong, it's always faster than expected, they're saying there are going to be 2.1 billion refugees, okay? So we're going to go from 21 million to 2.1 or 1.2 billion refugees around the world. That's 1 out of 8 people, 1 out of 7 people are going to be climate change refugees. Look around you and where you are, and chances are you're not going to be where you are in the future. And the thing about it is that, you know, my scale that I did here is at about 10 right now. Okay, so if you go from 21 million refugees to 2.1 billion refugees, I'm sorry, it's 2.1 billion refugees. But regardless, it's splitting hairs. It doesn't matter after a certain point. It's about a 50 times higher amount, you know, than it is now. And if you look at my scale that I have, we're going from a 10, then 50 times higher than that is about a 600. And that fits right in with my scale because they're saying that 2 degrees Celsius will be the rise by 2050, as well as 2.1 billion, or I thought it was 1.2 billion refugees. So that fits in 50 times that. The chart matches up exactly. I don't know if there are any doctorate candidates out there or people in the know about climate change. This chart is spot on. Okay, you can have a doubling of catastrophe for every 1/10 of a degree increase in temperature. So if we go up another 7/10 of a degree, we're going to have a world of hurt. And I can't imagine things going from a level 10 right now to a level 600 if you have children or anything like that, or grandchildren, or if you're a young person, you know, not my age, but probably someone around 40 or under. It's not going to be a fun world, and this is why it's in your best interest to start speaking up, studying real hard about climate change, telling your friends and family about it, and then start voting correctly. Stop voting for these parties that around the world you think that are on your side. They're not. They're not working for you. Okay, and I'm going to go into what's happening and what's going to happen somewhat as far as it goes. So I did the table to catastrophe, the McHenry scale. So you have the increasing level of catastrophe, doubling for every tenth of a degree. Right now, El Nino is starting to kick in, and the risk that happened during the Pliocene is it became a permanent El Nino, meaning the oceans kept venting off heat, and not only heat gets vented off, then it's carbon dioxide, because the oceans no longer hold the chemicals that they once did because they're warmer. So what happened is it became a permanent El Nino in the Atlantic, and it became an El Padre, okay, which is off the charts. It's never happened in human history, and this is a situation that we're heading into. All these events are never before, a new record, unforeseen, unexpected, faster than expected, came out of nowhere. We don't know what's happening, and the weather channels tend to, the people that have meteorologists that are bought and sold, tend to talk it down and say, this is just one of those weird aberrations, or it's just an extreme event. Rather than saying it's a record, this has never happened before, why is this happening? They don't call people up and ask for an interview or to explain as to what's happening. And it all revolves around the Arctic and the Antarctic and the heating thereof because of excessive carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, the greenhouse effect, and spinning off into all sorts of directions. It's like pinning Jell-O against the wall, for those who know what Jell-O is, and pushing it real hard, and you don't know which direction it's going to come out. But I can tell you, it's not going to stay under your hand. It's going to come out in all sorts of unexpected directions. So you have wildfires in Canada going on right now. Temperatures in mid-Canada, way up in Canada, like this should be like 55, 60 degrees. They're in the 90s, okay? This is crazy. The jet stream is going on a loop all the way down the west coast of the United States, coming up, doing an extreme loop up into Canada, and coming down again. And there's a cutoff low over the south right now, and the low pressure just stays and spins and dumps rain and rain. And in the middle of this bubble is Texas, and that's why you have an extreme heat in Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska, and South Dakota, things like that. So in the east here, we're experiencing that cutoff low in a side benefit of it, in that the weather has been cool and calm, but no rain. Now we're going to have rain for 3 or 4 or 5 days. Who knows how long? Hopefully it won't be a deluge, because that's not good for anybody. So the world's oceans are hotter than ever. Ever. Understand that. Hotter than ever. The Atlantic is hotter than ever. Okay? The hot water is ripe for developing hurricanes, but during an El Nino, at least in the Gulf area, wind shear will shear off the top of the hurricanes, and they never get a chance to develop. But that doesn't mean there won't be a tropical storm situation where it comes in and just dumps excessive amount of rain into Central America or into the southern part of the United States, things like that. The lowest sea ice level extent is now in Antarctica. The sea ice that surrounds Antarctica, because it's so cold, the cold water comes out and forms ice, and it's the lowest ever in Antarctica. It's never been seen lower than this. The Arctic sea ice. In the Arctic, it used to, up there, North Pole, the ice used to be 30 feet thick at times, and it was fast ice. You'd take your sled dogs across it, the local people would, and now it's down to 1 foot. The entire Arctic Ocean is less than 1 foot thick. Okay, we're talking this thick. It is one hurricane, one heating event away from going into a blue ocean event, which causes massive other problems, other feedback loops, such as loss of albedo. More heat comes in from the sun and stays rather than being reflected into space. The permafrost melts even faster. The water underneath melts faster, and the basin, because now the ocean has warmed up there. And in the basin of the ocean there is massive amounts of permafrost as well. You end up with massive fires around the whole world, in the taiga, the boreal forest, in Russia, Scandinavia, in Canada, as it's happening now. That causes more pollution in the atmosphere, more carbon dioxide, more methane, which again causes another feedback loop. So you get the idea here. One thing leads to another, and nothing is independent of the other. We're all related. Everything we do affects everything else. That's why these policies that Biden and the Congress have done, the mountain pipeline that they've approved through Joe Manchin, and it's great for jobs. It gives 2,000 jobs, but it's going to end the planet. The Willow Project Joe Biden authorized, it's going to end the world. It's provided 2,000 jobs to Alaska. Whoopee. I mean, in the context of human life, this is a murder policy, okay? This is straight up murder and then a suicide of a government, because the governments will collapse when there's social unrest. So that provides 2,000 jobs. Meanwhile, you have all this drilling in the north slope of Alaska that's been authorized, producing millions of barrels of oil and gas. You have 2 auctions that have happened in the Gulf of Mexico. This is just recently with Joe Biden administration, okay? You Democrats better straighten up and understand what's going on. The Republicans don't care at all. They deny climate change altogether, even though all these events are striking the South and the Midwest, which is a Republican stronghold. It makes no sense to me at all. There's no discussion about climate change. So you have the auction off of 2 massive amounts of area of the Gulf of Mexico for oil and gas drilling, the Willow Project in Alaska, the Joe Manchin pipeline. Joe Biden has authorized, in his first 2 years in office, 2,600 drilling permits on federal land, which he promised during the campaign to never issue 1 permit. 2,600 permits. Donald Trump issued 2,300 permits. So he's issued more permits than what Trump did. You got to understand, this guy is not an environmental president. Yeah, he'll give $600 million to California to strengthen their electrical grid. The reason why the grid needs strength is because we're going to go through an extreme amount of climate change, requiring us to switch over to electric cars and things like that. This is catastrophic what's happening right now. These policies they are doing are going to kill us. And it's not just Biden. The Congress is going along with them on this. You don't see Andrea Ocasio-Cortez or any of those so-called liberals putting up a fight about this. They're not fighting about the war in Ukraine, not demanding peace from both Russia and Ukraine and the United States to stop tunneling under everything and have endless wars. This, while you're fighting each other, Russia, China, United States, and whoever else is involved, NATO and all that stuff. You can't engage in a clear, concise climate change policy. It's not going to happen. You need Russia on board. You need China on board. You need the United States on board. Joe Biden does not go on the TV every night and make his case for climate change. The Congress doesn't go on TV every night and make their case for climate change. The local officials here make no such statement. They're not hardening up Gettysburg as to what needs to be done concerning climate change. We're going to go through extreme heat, drought, flash floods, terrific events that we don't even have any concept of what's going to happen. We need to harden up areas, and that's called adaptation. But you also need mitigation, which changes our policies and the way we're doing things so we can attempt to have some sort of chance of survival. Right now, we have no chance of survival. Okay, we're going through a level of extinction that has never happened before at this rate. Extinctions usually happen over a long period of time, over millions of years. We're doing this all in 2 decades, okay? 3 decades, maybe. But it's the massive events that are happening now. The event of our iPhones and all these other things that are happening require manufacturing. We're sending massive amounts of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. West of here, they tore down a whole forest for storage units. East of here, they built a gas station. Why are you building gas stations when we're supposed to switch over to electric? Why is there not a moratorium on building any new gas stations? They're building a new gas station. They tore down a forest to do that, and the gas station will stay here for some 30 years. That's not a policy in a country that's intent on getting out of this fossil fuel situation. They're subsidizing the fossil fuel industry for over $11 million a minute. I think a minute or a second, whatever it is. It's trillions of dollars a year going to the fossil fuel industry so they can drill out the guck that's going to kill us in the long run. Okay, I getting a weird vibe about this whole thing of what's going on. Are these people lizard people? Or are they just plain sick and psychopathic in their behavior? You figure it out. You're voting for them. I'm not. I haven't voted for one of these knuckleheads in a long, long time. Okay, so right now, 2100, the Himalayan mountains are expected to, 80% of the Himalayas are expected to be devoid of glaciers. All the glaciers are going to be gone basically by 2100. Take 50 years off of that because they're always wrong in their predictions. There are 2.1 billion people, and many of you watching this right now are from that area. 2.1 billion people are going to be without water. It is time you rise up and demand better treatment from your politicians and better policies. So 80% of the 80% of all refugees are refugees as a result of climate change. Now the 21 million people, or they think 21 million people, are climate change refugees. So 1.2 billion will be refugees coming by 2050, not 2.1 billion. So check my TikTok chart out. I will bring it up before I sign off here. And, we're going from 1.2 degrees to 1.75 degrees by 2050, they're saying, or 2 degrees Celsius. Either way, they're wrong, because it's going to be much more than that. The Pliocene era indicates we're going to go a lot higher than that. We're on pace to go 2 to 3 degrees higher, not 7/10 of a degree higher. So you're being lied to. They're underpredicting things. And models don't hold true for the United Nations as to what's going on. It's always faster than what they're predicting. They're using information from 5, 10, 20 years ago rather than what is happening right now. They can't react fast enough as to how fast these events are changing. So it comes down to this. Those people, the migrants at the border and things like that, they're coming up here as a result of climate change. They're not coming up here to cause you problems or steal your jobs. They're being forced out of their home. Would you want to leave your home if you didn't have to? No. They're trying to find a better life for their kids because they can no longer live where they are. And it's around the world. Greece just had 100 and some people die, or 81 people die in the Mediterranean because their policies, they deliberately let a boat in the Mediterranean keel over. They observed it for several hours, and the refugees all died on the boat for the most part. Okay, and this is straight up murder. What's going on? Leaving refugees at the border when it's 120 degrees is murder. Okay, these policies are ridiculous. You call yourself a Christian nation, you call yourself a Muslim nation, you call yourself this, a Buddhist nation, this, that. You're engaged in policies that are murdering people. Face up to it. And you're voting for these people, and you're not saying anything to these people. You're engaged in murder too. You might be an accessory to murder, but it's murder all the same. These people are dying. So those people at the border will be your destiny eventually. Either you're going to become one of them, or the unrest that's going to happen is going to unweight your government to the point where they can't survive as a government. Okay, so we're all intertwined with each other. Decisions made by Congress and Joe Biden right now, and also the world's government, will affect you for the rest of your life, and will affect your children for the rest of their lives, whatever's left of it. And if you have grandchildren, good luck to you, because I don't see how they're going to have any sort of any life but a horrendous life, a hellscape coming their way. So unless you make things change right now, okay? As soon as this broadcast is over, go onto YouTube, type in climate change, and start listening to YouTube videos. There's Paul Beckwith, Environmental Coffee House, Guy McPherson, Kevin Anderson. I mean, there are tons on there. Peter Carter, tons of people on there. So right now, we have a policy in the United States, might makes right. Let's fight them where they are. Let's keep democracy. We don't have democracy, okay? When you're controlled by corporations and the military, you no longer have democracy, okay? This is called fascism, okay? It sounds bad to say that, it's fascism. But you're blending your military and your corporations and your governments in a revolving door. One leaves Congress, they go over to the Northrop Grumman or to Boeing or wherever else, and then they go back to the military, and then the military goes over to Congress, and they come. It's a big circle event, and it's a big circle, if you know what I mean. So displacement of those directly affected will affect you. Okay, we're all related to each other, and we need to start treating each other with respect. And if people are engaged in policies that are going to kill you, you need to treat them with disrespect, okay? You can't be nicey nice about stuff at this point, okay? You need to make your point known that you're no longer happy and no longer complacent and willing to be complicit with what is happening. So turn your back on the border, anti-Christian. Turn your back on the border, people, what's happening, anti-Muslim. Turn your back on people, anti-whatever, Hindu. You guys, all these religions have policies as to treat others as you wish to be treated. Truth is truth, okay? And if you would treat your brother badly, then you can expect to treat others badly. That's how it is. So try to be a better person by doing the right thing. So what's going to happen is you're going to have massive migration, okay? That's what's coming our way. What happens as a result of that is social unrest. Then you have government upheavals, and then you have the social fabric unwound, okay? Things fall apart. People just trying to survive, and they'll do whatever they can do to keep their family alive. And you lose your humanity, your respect for each other at that point. So humans and all life on Earth is in jeopardy right now. And we're in a lifeboat together. This is Lifeboat Earth. And you got these people in charge that are drilling holes in it, and you're sitting by in your lifeboat going, yeah, they're good people, I'll vote for them, while they're drilling holes in the lifeboat, okay? We're all sinking, and these knuckleheads, these psychopaths, are in charge, and they're doing horrendous things. You can't allow this to continue. So politics is directly linked with climate change. I don't like talking about politics, but there are these policies, since we're all in a capitalist system, it seems like, they're all linked with climate change. They make a decision and it affects the entire situation. Endless growth is a cancer. I was listening today that China is growing at 6% a year. At some point, you're going to strip out all your resources. Nothing's going to be left. The United States goes at 2% a year, at 3% a year. Other countries are going at the same rate. Eventually, you're going to run out of resources. This is called overshoot. This is called overshoot, where you need 2 to 3 to 5 more Earths, and we don't have a second Earth. There's no spare Earths. This is it. There is no planet B, no planet C, anything like that. If you continue to grow, it's like a cancer, and cancer is eventually like in a petri dish. If things keep expanding, eventually you run out of petri dish. If you double every time, then eventually at some point you have 50% of the petri dish is full of the cancer. If you double it, it's 100% the next day. Okay, it goes from 50% to 100. You stripped out everything. It's over. You can't keep doubling. You can't keep growing. You need to look. Countries need to switch their mindset from a gross domestic product to a gross happiness product, gross survivability product. We can't continue on this path. So example of that would be if you cut down woods, eventually you run out of trees. That's just it. That's your resources. You have nothing left. So I'm going to show you this TikTok chart, and I'm going to hold it up to the camera and kind of show you where we are and where we're going. And that'll be the end of my talk at that point. Thanks for hanging in there so long. So this is called the TikTok chart. Let me see if you're on camera here with it. Okay, TikTok, table of catastrophe, the McHenry scale. And you can take a photo of it, a screenshot of it, and you can make up your own decisions. And if you have people in the know, please show them, because this is where we're heading. This is a degree increase for every 1/10 of a degree increase. We were there at 1.2. I think we're 1.35 now that El Nino is kicking in. The United Nations says we're going up to 2 degrees increase. So right now we're at about a level 10 on catastrophic level. We're headed up to a 600. Okay, you have a doubling for every 1/10 of a degree. It seems to be holding true. Take a screenshot if you feel like it, and you can look at it yourself and study it. It seems to be holding true, and I was quite surprised today when I read about the prediction as to where migration is occurring. So we're going from a level 10 to a level 600. Okay, that is a cataclysm that I can't even imagine. So this idea of passing 1.5 is safe. We're going from a 10 to a level 32 if we go past 1.5. Those level of catastrophes, the amount of catastrophes and the level of catastrophes is unfathomable. I think we're going to have trouble surviving, and it's going to become very apparent next year, 2024, when El Nino fully kicks in. And by 2026, we're going to have a struggle to survive. So I really, really, really hope everyone contacts their congressman or does speeches like this constantly, talks to your friends and family. I'm having a heck of a time trying to get any sort of discussion going. And, I hope people wake up soon and, start doing the right thing. And the first thing you can start doing is not going along blindly with your politicians. Stop following blindly like someone who's not paying attention at all, doesn't care, going to walk right into a wall or into a buzzsaw. And we got to make better decisions as to what's happening. We need to think about our individual lives, but we need to think ourselves as a world organism. That we're all part of one. So I'll catch you next week, and that'll be talk number 240. Sad to say, this should have stopped at talk number 1. So I'll see you next time at 240 next week.